Hello, in this episode Luke overthinks the Great Escape Recon card game. So hello, and this is another card game review, a review of this single player game by Zaydorf. It's an expansion for the Great Escape card game, for which my review is findable up in the corner if you didn't catch it. In brief, I basically said it was a nice little game that was infuriatingly like the film, in that it's very difficult to score any points because most of the prisoners get captured or killed. The original game comes in 3 phases that are all depicted on the one card. So you have the tunnelling phase, which is in the middle, you have the escaping phase, so this tells you about the prisoner who's escaping, and then at the bottom, the ways that they're captured or killed. So it's a very economical design, really well done, really quick to play, and insanely difficult to score any points in most games. What the expansion does is it adds 2 new phases on the front, sort of mapping onto Hilts and Ives escaping in the film, finding out information and then being caught and brought back. And then depending on how you do in that recon mission, then changes how phases 2 and 3 of the original game play. So you still need the original game to be able to play this new expansion. So thematically, brilliant as the first one was. You have the phase 1 is essentially a puzzle where you're rearranging cards and dodging lights and guards to move around the prisoner of war camp. And then the second phase, you're laying out cards, traversing 4 different types of terrain, and you basically decide how those line up, avoiding dogs and guards that are trying to catch you, and finding as many of 6 possible escape routes that you can add to the general escape party in the original game. And those correspond exactly to the film, so you have the bus, you have the train, you have the plane, you have the boat, you have the motorbike, and then you have meeting up with the resistance to get you out of the country.
Resistance?
You are English.
I'm Australian.
Lovely theming of the game in the spirit of the first one. If you know the film, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you'll get this card game if you've never seen the film, but I think you probably only get the game if you've seen the film. And it is nice to kind of emulate the film in your gameplay. Let's talk about everything in order. The first phase, I can take it or leave it. It's a puzzle essentially. You deal 15 random cards, and you have to rearrange them to find a path from the top left of one card to the bottom right of the other one. And depending on how many cards, you can swap out cards if it's getting too difficult. And depending on how many you swap out, depends on how much or little of a head start you get to the second phase. My experience has either been that it's relatively straightforward to rearrange them when it works, or on the one occasion that I found it hard, it was just impossible to find a route. So I can kind of take or leave it, but you do need to play it because it takes 15 cards out of the game, potentially 15 to 20 cards out of the game, so affects how the second phase then plays out. The second phase is a much more interesting one, where you're making decisions about how to traverse the terrain, also if and when to get caught, because technically you could get through all the pack and escape, at which point you get away, but then you can't get the intelligence back to the rest of the camp, and so they can't use all the escape routes that you've found. I think my record thus far is finding 3 of the 6 escape routes on one run, but mostly you're likely to find 1 or 2. In this game that I've got out here, I've found the boat and I've found the resistance. You then play out the original game as you would in terms of the tunnelling, so you see if you can build a tunnel. Once you've built your tunnel, that's when things get interesting as far as this game goes, because you then, unlike the original, where you just deal out as many cards as you can until your escape gets discovered, as you deal each card out, you have to assign them either to your main escape group, as in the original game, or to one of the new escape routes that you have found. And each of those escape routes has rules as to how many people can use them and what criteria they must meet in order to be able to use those routes. When I first mentioned that I was going to be doing a review of this on my YouTube channel, I said, oh, and it makes things easier. And the designer of the game posted, it doesn't make things easier. And he's right, it doesn't. I imagine, possibly if you can manage to find all 6 escape routes, maybe it does. The one obvious pitfall is that having done all of this extra recon work, your escape attempt can still fail at the tunnelling stage, or it can fail shortly after the tunnelling stage when you only get 3 prisoners out before you get discovered, at which point having extra escape routes sort of delays the inevitable that you're not going to score any points at the game. So you still need to get lucky and have a good run of tunnel building and a good run of prisoners getting out for these escape routes to mean anything at all. If you do that though, it adds a nice extra level of gameplay and figuring out who to assign where, who's most likely to escape if you put them on the boat, for example, or who's most likely to escape if you put them on the train or whatever. And then as things play out, things that happen in the film, like people having to jump off the train because they're going to get their tickets inspected. People getting caught out getting on the bus because they've said something in the wrong language.
Good luck. Thank you.
If you've got the plane, then the plane crashes with 5 cards to go. And you have to then make your own way from there. So it's delightfully kind of laid out as in the film and adds to the gameplay. If you like the original, you're going to like this one. It adds an extra level of things to do, it's fun, it lengthens the game if that's what you're looking for, and thematically it carries on in the vein of the first game. As I said, I could largely do without phase 1, to be honest. I think it doesn't really do anything for me, but phase 2 and then the effect that has on the rest of the game is what this is all about and is the reason for picking it up. So that's another hit from Zaydorf. I will be back next time to review The Rat's Lair, which I've had for longer, but it's taken me ages to get around to doing it. So tune in next time, subscribe, like, do whatever you do here, and you'll see that next time.